Complexes? They were only a dream I needed to wake up from. By Jae-sung C. I felt like an isolated island. I was full of inferiority complexes. Outwardly, I looked perfectly normal, but the moment I had to speak in front of people, I shrank into myself completely. As a child, whenever my mother asked me to run errands, I would stand awkwardly in front of the store, unable to go inside, and often return home empty-handed. Saying, "Could I please have this?" to the shop owner felt unbelievably difficult. Sometimes, just to escape the moment, I would buy completely unrelated things instead. Even during rice planting season, when following my mother meant I could enjoy delicious field meals, I still could not bring myself to go because there would be too many people there. Whenever I was around others, I felt completely powerless, like a sack of barley awkwardly left in the corner. I felt like an isolated island cut off from the world. Literature became my only comfort. The only thing that comforted my endlessly shrinking heart was literature. One day, I happened to encounter the works of Jae-sung. The moment I read them, I felt strangely relieved, as though I had finally found someone who understood the absurdity inside me. I thought, right, human beings are naturally complicated and incomplete. Maybe there's nothing inherently wrong with me. Immersed in literature, I convinced myself that I didn't need university. Or rather, I desperately tried to believe that. It wasn't because I lacked ability or because my circumstances were difficult. I told myself, I simply don't need it. Whenever people asked, "What university class year are you?" I would casually change the subject to literature or quote lines from books. Internally, I mocked them. Even if you graduate from university, it's not that impressive anyway. Back home, shelves filled with books covered my walls. Those books represented my intelligence, my culture, my value. I convinced myself, this is enough. I don't need some university diploma. But then, why was I still so depressed? I remained timid. Whenever I stood before university students, I instinctively felt inferior. Even in my dreams, I repeatedly dreamed of failing university entrance exams. I hated myself for it, so I drank. And each time I sobered up and saw my shriveled self again, the despair was unbearable. I drank daily and lived recklessly. Even at work, people gradually stopped trusting me. I became someone unreliable. The belief, I am inadequate, hardened inside me like fossilized stone. And it was at that point, when I felt completely trapped, that I encountered this meditation. I was 42 years old. I finally found the root of my timidity. As I practiced and reviewed my life like flipping through an old photo album, one memory suddenly appeared vividly. It was from an elementary school talent show. I had been assigned a solo performance, but because I had not practiced properly, I panicked halfway through and ran off the stage in embarrassment. At that moment, I realized, that memory was the reason I always became nervous whenever I stood before people. Even though the event had long since passed, I had remained trapped inside that single memory all my life. With nothing I felt proud of compared to others, I had turned toward literature and alcohol. But the more I escaped into them, the deeper I sank into inferiority caused by poverty, lack of education, social anxiety. I could no longer escape. Then I began seeing the true motives behind my obsession with literature. Pretending to pursue some lofty spiritual or intellectual world, I secretly looked down on others, thinking, I'm different from ordinary materialistic people. In reality, I was simply a deeply insecure person full of inferiority. But admitting that truth felt too painful. So instead, I constantly searched for flaws in others to reassure myself that I was somehow superior. Even my cynical personality had grown from that mindset. Inside, I was always thinking, you must have flaws too. You're not that impressive either. Only by criticizing and reducing others could I justify my own existence. Eventually, I realized I had been deceiving both myself and the world. And I became so ashamed and embarrassed that I could no longer avoid letting go of all those minds. Waking up from the nightmare of inferiority. Just as headlights illuminate the darkness at night, once light entered my mind, all the filthy debris hidden inside became visible. But thankfully, I also discovered something incredible. The miserable version of myself who had suffered endlessly inside inferiority complexes was never my true self. My original nature was infinite, like the universe itself. That meant even the me drowning inside inferiority could simply be discarded, and realizing that gave me tremendous hope. The moment I understood that those painful worlds had been dreamlike illusions, it felt as though I had finally awakened from a long nightmare. For the first time, I began truly living. There was once a poem I hated more than any other. Flower by Jae-sung C. The line, "When I called his name, he came to me and became a flower," felt completely foreign to me because I had never truly connected with the world. When I looked at flowers, I couldn't even see beauty in them. Instead, I thought, why were you even born into this world? That was how dark my heart had been. Spring itself felt distant from me. But now I love spring. I wait eagerly for it. When I see flowers, I naturally say, "Why are you so beautiful? It's nice to see you." Even inside elevators, I comfortably ask strangers, "Which floor are you going to?" During holidays, I used to volunteer for overnight work shifts because facing family gatherings felt too uncomfortable. Part of it was shame. I still hadn't married, and I felt embarrassed before my parents and siblings. But now, during holidays, I'm the first one to visit my family and help with household work. Things I once could never have imagined are now happening naturally. Before I realized it, I had begun truly interacting with the world. It feels as though I crossed a river of forgetfulness. Sometimes I can hardly remember the days when I lived crushed beneath inferiority and shame. So if there is anyone suffering from inferiority complexes now, I want to ask, would you prefer it to remain reality? Or would you rather discover it was only a dream? We can wake up from dreams. We can awaken from the nightmare called inferiority and finally begin living real life.